What's up, everyone? In today's video, we're going to be going over our top predictions for the market tomorrow and some other important things to know about. We have an exciting week ahead of us as we have more important earnings, Powell speaking again, and then while all this is happening, we have Mark Zuckerberg recently unloading some of his Meta shares. We're coming into a pretty strong time of the year for the market, seasonally speaking, and we have some other important things to talk about. So with that being said, make sure you stick with us, but let's get right into it, Tom.
Yeah, that S&P 500 was pretty wild today, Mike, and I'll say this, all morning long, I was actually looking for a sell-off on the SPY, and we got a sell-off, but wasn't one of those true big sell-offs that we really see. No, it was kind of like a smaller intraday pullback that came in midday, and the second that we hit that 434 area, we barely broke below, then started ripping all the way back up above 435 again, and then we closed green. So it was a very choppy day where I would say the overall price action was kind of more of to the downside, even though it didn't close red. And if we go out to that SPY daily chart, we've been watching this channel on the SPY, and what did it do today? It hit right off the top of this channel, and it's consolidating. The channel actually lines up a lot better on QQQ, where it's almost near perfect on these touches. So I'll be watching these channels very, very closely tomorrow, Mike, and I noticed today that a lot of the big tech stocks like Apple, Microsoft, and etc. did pretty damn good. The one that kind of drug the market down was Tesla. I will say that one was a bit of a party pooper whenever you think of the overall tech stocks.
No doubt about that. And, what's very interesting right now is, as we look at big tech stocks, some of these big money traders or big money people are, starting to de-risk a little bit. And Mark Zuckerberg actually just started to sell some of his shares after about 2 years of no selling at all, right? So Mark Zuckerberg last week, it was actually released that he dumped around $17 million worth of his shares. Of course, he still has a whole lot more stocked up, but it is worth noting that Mark Zuckerberg just now started to sell his shares again.
Yeah, I mean, that's nuts, Mike. There's two dumps there, 8 million or around 8.7 million on the first one, 8.6 million on the second one on the dollar amount. And whenever I'm looking at those dollar amounts, it's not the most, right? It's around 2% of his overall share count there. So it's not like he's selling a ton, right? But do these big CEOs usually sell a ton? No. Even if we go and we look at the NVIDIA CEO, right? Whenever he was selling, it's not like they cut half their positions at once, right? And he's been kind of selling up here at the top too with NVIDIA. I know we talked about that one a couple months ago. Now we're seeing Zuckerberg kind of do this at the top also with his stock. I wonder if these guys are kind of foreseeing something, Mike, and I don't know. I've been loving the way yields were running down. Today, we got a slight pop back up out of them, but I kind of feel like for the next couple months, yields might run down a little bit, which would make these stocks run higher. So I'm kind of conflicted on this, but it's always interesting whenever you have these big players selling shares.
Yeah, so I think Meta can fall more just because it's so overbought in the grand scheme of things. But at the end of the day, when you have someone as wealthy as Mark Zuckerberg dump $17 million worth of shares, it's not the biggest deal ever because, it's not that much for Mark Zuckerberg. And on top of that, Mark Zuckerberg could be selling his shares for any number of reasons. He could think the stock's about to fall, or he might just want a brand new house in Hawaii, right? We don't know that. But when we see insiders buying shares, that tells us a lot more. So just keep that in mind going forward and keep a close eye on Meta. But Tom, jumping around a little bit to the overall market, with data going all the way back to 1950, we can see that we are heading into a pretty strong period of the year. So in the light blue line, we can see the market for this year, and then in the dark blue line, we can see the historical average for, each part of the year. And most of the time, from where we are right now to the end of the year ends up being a really strong time with a lot of buying pressure. So I figured I'd show this because I know people love these.
Yeah, and it usually is played out pretty well, right? It's not going to play out exactly to these historical averages every single time, but, we talked about September being historically pretty bad, and I don't know, Mike, that was one of the worst months in a long time. October ended up being pretty bad too, even though it's a fairly good month usually, but so far, November's been great, right? We've been seeing the SPY run to the upside, and I think so far we've been getting that positive price action come in. And, we're talking about a lot of these big trend lines like on the SPY and on QQQ right now. And the big thing to keep in mind is like QQQ has tested this trend line here like 3 or 4 other times. So will this finally be where maybe we get that huge break and like a big run to the upside? A lot of people call this the end of year holiday moves, right? The Christmas rally, some people say. So if we get that breakout, we get that Christmas rally here, that'll be perfect with that historical average. So I kind of hope it happens, Mike, but I don't know. That so far this trend line has held up and I'm still conflicted, but I'm glad to see people talking more about rate cuts and easing rather than rate hikes. I'm glad that we're getting out of that rate hike zone.
No doubt about that. And what's still very interesting is like while the market has been doing great lately, there still is a lot of bearish sentiment just lingering around multiple different areas in the market. Like, yes, the market's been making lower highs, but we also have polls like this AAII investor sentiment poll that basically is showing that investors are more bearish right now than they are in like 96% of the time. So it's like, when you talk to people, we're not seeing that overwhelming like bullish sentiment that we've seen in, earlier in the year. It's like, it's different now.
Here's what really scares me, Mike. There's more bearish sentiment right now, or just about equal to what there was in the dot-com bubble, right? And what do people keep saying is going on right now? An AI bubble. I've heard people bring that up a lot, whether you look at NVIDIA or Apple or Microsoft or Google or any of these big tech stocks that are really overextended. Even Meta over the past year and a half is really overextended. So I'm looking at NVIDIA and all these other big AI stocks, and I'm like, well, hey, is that maybe the case? And I'm not saying that we're in a bubble, but it's just one of those things to think about. We have just as bad a bearish sentiment right now as one of the worst times in the past 30 years in the stock market. So that's pretty crazy to me that people would be that, I guess, bearish right now. But that's what happens whenever you have talking heads like Powell and everybody out there creating that pressure on the market.
And what's also worth noting is like when you look at some of the big tech stocks over the past year, like Nvidia is a prime example. Like, sure, they're not at all-time highs right now, but they're still very close to them. Nvidia's still at like $457 a share, where basically around this time last year, the stock was trading for like $120 a share. Like, think about that. That's crazy. Like it went from like 120 up to 457. And to see that big of a move on a company as big as Nvidia it's worth noting, So it's like, while stocks aren't like ripping through the highs, they're still very close to their all-time high. And, in my opinion, I think a lot of these stocks are due for a pullback.
Me too, Mike. And it's just like, especially NVIDIA, it's like one of the best examples you can find. And a lot of those traders, a lot of traders out there look at the market and they say, well, hey, what about those big gaps on the chart, right? Look at this big gap on NVIDIA's chart. Could you imagine if that thing filled, like the amount of heads that would explode if NVIDIA fell to 300? I'll be honest, the $300, I think it could go even lower than that, if we're talking about valuation. But look at where their CEO started selling last time. I mean, he picked like damn near the top and the stock started falling. He did it again up here. Is that going to be what we see? Are we going to see a big pullback out of this? I would think that we do. The pressure on consumers is getting a little bit out of hand. And in my opinion, it's going to hurt these stocks like NVIDIA that, they make a lot of money commercially, but, they sell their graphics cards to a lot of, you would say, private buyers as well. Just the average consumer building computers and et cetera.
And what's also worth noting is even some of their institutional buyers are struggling to actually buy their products. Like China isn't even allowed to buy half their products now. So, kind of getting hit from both sides. So we'll see with this one. But either way, I think it should make for some really great moves and opportunities going forward. And speaking of some big moves, Tom, we have more earnings on the schedule for this week. We're still in the heart of earnings season. So fill us in.
Yeah, it's a big one. Tomorrow's a pretty big day, I'll say. Tomorrow in pre-market, there's a couple big ones. Uber, Celsius, and Datadog. I'll say tomorrow morning, DDOG is going to be pretty interesting for the tech stocks out there. So I can't wait to see how they do. And then in after hours, oh boy, Mike, our favorite stock, Rivian, is going to be reporting, the best car company in the world. No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, what?
But Devon Energy, Upstart, Oxy, Wish, quite a lot tomorrow. Wednesday is going to be the big day. AMC, Disney, Twilio, Mara, Affirm, quite a bit. And then in pre-market, Warner Bros, Roblox. So we have a lot upcoming, even more on Thursday that we'll get into a little bit later in the week. But Uber and Datadog are on watch tomorrow morning, and Rivian and After Hours will be interesting, even though they're not my favorite company. Sometimes they can have really fun moves to trade, and those options can go nuts.
No doubt. I'm just very excited for Disney earnings after the bell on Wednesday. I think this will be most people's top watched earnings stock of the week. They're so low right now. They're at the same prices that they were trading at since 2014. So it's basically been 10 years of no growth, assuming that you held the shares. Like you said in yesterday's video, Tom, you had opportunities to sell for a pretty nice profit like in 2020 and 2021, but a lot of people just held it, and they're sitting at the same price that they were almost 10 years ago. So that'll be an interesting report there. But Tom, we even have Powell speaking twice this week. So fill us in on that side of things too.
Yeah, Powell speaking 2 times. Tomorrow we have a couple Fed speakers as well. There's a lot of Fed speakers this week besides Powell. So if you guys want to get that, go on the Federal Reserve website. There's a whole bunch. But on Wednesday at 9:15 a.m., 15 minutes before the market open, Powell's giving opening remarks at this event. I'm not going to say the whole thing because it's like a tongue twister for me. But on Wednesday, 15 minutes before opening remarks, it's not an FOMC event or anything like that. I don't think that we'll have anything too crazy. And then Thursday, the same thing. It's a policy panel discussion at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. So again, nothing too crazy. It's not an FOMC event, but if he does bring something up about some easing or something like that, who knows? The market might start going ballistic.
Sounds great. All right, Tom, let's get right into the fun stuff now, which are some setups for tomorrow. One stock I'm watching very closely is Baba. So Baba had a decent run over the past week or so, but I think it has a lot more fuel in the tank. Basically, Baba is a stock that kind of does whatever it wants. Sometimes it moves with the market, but it can also move in the complete opposite direction of the market, and it has no problems doing that, which is a perfect type of opportunity for this week, in my opinion, because the market is at a point where it's too overbought, where it's kind of hard to justify going long now, but at the same time, it's too strong where you don't really want to short it, where Baba kind of offers that opportunity that's like independent. So I will be watching this one to the upside for this week because of that reason, but also because of the fact that it has been pretty bullish lately.
Yeah, and just because it has like one little weird day like today where it actually went up and then fell down doesn't mean that like the uptrend's over, right? Like a lot of people might see like a red candle on the daily chart and go like, oh no, it's over, right? But you go to a lot of uptrends and you see a lot of those red candles mixed in, and then the next couple days might be some of the best green days of the move. So I really like that, Mike. Baba has like a mind of its own, so I'll definitely keep it on the radar as well. Man, one stock that has been on fire is DraftKings. I had to talk about this one today. They had a huge breakout, new highs of the year. And Mike, we've been talking about this stock a lot. So, hey, give yourselves a pat on the back. Give yourselves a round of applause. If you've been a DraftKings shareholder and you've been averaging into this dip, you should be doing pretty damn well right now. So let's go. I love it. DraftKings is above $35. I'll be watching it for more momentum tomorrow. And oh, Mike, it's always good to, see one of those long-term stocks that you love and you have going up pretty well.
It's hard to beat that feeling, a stock that you just keep averaging into. When you see it hit like a new yearly high, it just gives you a special type of feeling that you can't really compare to anything else. So great stuff there, Tom. Love to see it. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is PayPal. Now, PayPal also has been doing pretty well lately. Over the past couple months, it has been getting smacked, but over the past week, it has been doing pretty good from earnings, and I think it can have an earnings continuation right here. I would love to see a break above like $55.30 with some strong volume coming in. I think that would make for a pretty good like breakout / earnings continuation play to the upside.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I hope they continue up. And it seemed like they tried to the past few days, and then today they just kind of tumbled back over with the market. So I think that they could easily come back up. So let's see that earnings continuation come in. And talking about that earnings play with PayPal, mine's also an earnings continuation play on the next one, which is Square. They had a nice run with earnings. They started pulling back. I'm noticing them basing off support around like 48.30. So if they're able to break above $50 even tomorrow, I love the whole dollar amount too. If they're able to break $50, I think that some calls could be on the table for a quick scalp or even like a hold throughout the day. I'm not saying to hold it all the way to close, but I think there could be a pretty significant move if we do get that breakout. So let's see it, Mike. Hopefully these growth stocks keep going, because even while the market was real choppy today, it was like a growth stock dream out there.
Let's get it. Love to see it. All right, well, it is now time for today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we actually have a growth stock, and that is Coinbase to the upside.
COIN. Yeah, if they're able to break back above $87, go ahead and look at those calls to the upside. I like that whole dollar level, and Coinbase is following Bitcoin a little bit, so hopefully Bitcoin pops up tonight.
You know it. With the next one, we have that crazy stock, Tesla, to the downside.
Yeah, the crazy one here. Go ahead and make them break down below 215 even. That was a perfect double bottom today there. So make them break under 215, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but the SPY had a double bottom too.
Awesome. And then with the last one, we have Meta for both directions.
META, I actually like this intraday support for a possible breakdown, and it's right around 314.50. I've been watching 315 a lot the past few days, but if we break under 314.50, go ahead and look at those puts. I think that'll be a great opportunity. Mike, we talked about Meta earlier being overextended. Definitely a good possible play down. Now, if that market keeps ripping, which who knows? It might break this trend line and go flying up, and Meta breaks back above 317, then look at some calls there. But I really want to see that like 317 to 317.25 intraday resistance break.
Good stuff. So we have that upside level for a potential call play. We have the downside level for a potential put play. And then that's for Meta. Don't forget about the opportunity with Tesla to the downside, and then Coinbase to the upside. So these are the three momentum plays for today. They are only potential plays if they break the levels Tom listed. If they don't, look for a new setup and don't force something that isn't there. But let's get right into today's big money $3.8 million trade of the day. And we are looking at ticker symbol JCI. So basically, a big money trader plowed $3.8 million into the JCI $57.50 strike call options that expire. They're way out, Tom, on January 17th of 2025. So JCI is at a pretty good support level right here, right around like this $48 to $50 level. When we zoom out, we could also see that it's been making higher lows ever since, honestly, just the past couple of years. So that's been great. The play has potential, but I'll say this. Clearly, this is not a stock that is super hyped up like Tesla or Nvidia or AMD or Palantir or anything like that. It's a much more slow-moving company, and the options have a lot of time. So if you're going to follow this big money trade, just make sure you're willing to go the distance with it. We'll say that. It expires all the way in January of 2025. So if you can hold for that long, then great. But if it's not for you, then wait for the next one.
Yeah, and one thing I really like about it is that it's down by that big support. $48 to $50 is huge on this. Now, it has been falling down a lot the past couple of years. It had that big run with COVID, but it's been kind of falling lower, right? But so has a lot of other stocks, and a lot are starting to come up finally. So I feel like, Mike, we might be starting to see like a rotation, and this might be one of those stocks that's in that rotation back up. So I'll definitely watch it. It's not my favorite big money play ever, just because it's Johnson Controls, right? It's not Tesla or something like that, but it's definitely an interesting one. I think it's a good play as long as you're willing to give it time. Like you said, you got to give it that time, because this support's big, and who knows, it might chop down here for 6 months before finally running up to 65 or $70.
True that. And, what's also worth noting is that we have had a couple pretty good big money plays lately. Like that Neo one from the other day is pretty tempting. It's one of my favorite big money trades from recently. Of course, it's risky, so if you do enter it, make sure you can handle the heat. But I will say lately, the big money setups have been pretty tempting. Like a lot of them expire in a couple months, or even a year or less from now. But I do think we have some pretty good ones. Neo's one of my favorite.
Yeah, and I even like this LYV one here with all the Taylor Swift news and stuff. I know that it might not have moved up a lot today, but I still like it, and I do like Neo as well. Neo had a big pullback today, so if you guys missed the entry on Neo, it's a longer term play. You guys might be able to catch an entry here on this one even. I mean, maybe not even today, maybe tomorrow. Well, obviously tomorrow at this point, right? It's night, but I don't mean like right away. Maybe look for a little bit more of a pullback. But my point is, on this pullback, you could maybe enter into this, and they're into the what was it, Mike? The 9 strike calls for June 21st, but it's 2024, so it has some time to it, and I really like that support with Neo. I think there could be a good possible move here, and they do actually, we have Rivian reporting soon, so they might move with them tomorrow.
Tom, it's weird to say the option expires in 2024 because, at first it feels so far out, but then it's you look at the calendar, it's November of 2023. June of 2024 is not that far away. So it's just crazy. Time's flying. But yeah, either way, keep a close eye on this one going forward. And guys, we're set for a very exciting week. We have more hot earnings. We have the market moving in a big way. We have Powell speaking. We have lots of big money plays. So it should be a pretty great week. You have to check out the StockedUp Discord if you're not already in it. We had SurgeBot debut today. And even though the market was super choppy, it was an amazing time. We had a lot of people catch LLY call options, which flew up big time. But overall, definitely check out that first link in the description in the comments down below to get full access to SurgeBot, hybrid bot plays, sniper bot plays, and a bunch of other great features and tools for short-term trading. We have everything you could possibly need, and it's the place to be. So definitely check it out. Besides that, thank you guys so much for watching, and let's crush it this week in the markets.